All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over these problems. You've been asked to already write them down. Today we're going to practice multiplying by powers of 10. Powers of 10 are 10, 100, 1000. The reason they're powers of 10 because 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 10 is 100. 10 times 10 times 10 is 1000. So we're just multiplying by powers of 10. And to do this, you have to know one thing. Well, two things. You need to know you need to know which side is the right side, and you need to be able to count. No higher than 3 really this year, because we're not going to multiply by 10,000 or 100,000 or anything. So if you know which direction is to the right, and you can count all the way up to 3, then we can multiply by these powers of 10. The positive powers, or the greater than 1. Powers of 10 greater than 1. So if we look at this, as the notes say, you're moving the decimal point to the right. When we multiply by 10, we're moving the decimal point to the right one time. And you asked why. Well, let's look at a whole number that you already know how to do. Let's look at 7 times 10. What is 7 times 10? Anyone?
70.
70, good. The 7 is in the ones place.
70.
The 7 is in the ones place. That means the decimal point is right behind it. Now when I'm multiplying by 10, I have to move the decimal point one place to the right. And to do that, I have to add a 0. So I moved my decimal point from here to here. It's the same thing if I was multiplying just a whole number by 100. I move my decimal point from here to here, so then it becomes 700. So you've already been doing this. When you were counting by tens or counting by hundreds, you've moved the decimal point. You just didn't know you were moving the decimal point. All we're doing right now is showing you how and why it works. You just have to remember your right hand. The correct direction. Now in this problem, we have 18 and 32 hundredths times 10. Doing an estimation, if I did 18 times 10, then my answer would be 180. Easy peasy, raw chicken squeezy. So my answer needs to be somewhere near 180. I'm multiplying by 10, which means my decimal point goes to the right once. This number then becomes 183 and 2/10. The actual numbers are not going to change. Just like when we multiplied 7 times 10, the 7 did not change. The decimal point moved and we had to add zeros in. So we may have to add zeros in, but the decimal point does not change. That's the first thing you need to remember. The most important thing you need to remember. 2 and 163 thousandths multiplied by 100, there are 2 zeros. If I were to multiply 2 times 100, my answer would be near 200. So my answer needs to be near 200 if I multiply this number by 100, because it's close to 2. I move my decimal point 2 zeros, I move it to the right twice, and my answer is going to be 216 and 3/10. 216 and 3/10. This third one, 8 and 1/10 times 100. Well, if I made it 8 times 100, it would equal 800. So my answer needs to be somewhere close to 800, because 8 and 1/10 is close to 8. So if I move my decimal point twice, wait a minute, I can only move it once, because there's only one number. What should I do? Well, simple enough. You add a 0, just like you did here. We added zeros. Okay? With a whole number, you know how to add zeros, and it doesn't make you think second about it. So this becomes 810. So my decimal point moved from behind the 8 to behind the 0. And I know it's behind the 0 even though it's not written, because the 0 is in the ones place. So the decimal point goes behind the ones. You obviously know 7 times 100 is 700. Decimal point's behind the ones place. It moves twice, so then it goes there. If the decimal point is not written, it's always, and I mean always, located behind the ones place, just to the right of the ones place. Now I'm going to put a couple up here, and I want you to solve them, and then we'll go over them. Now that you've seen a couple as practice, remember, this is the first time we've done it, so don't get all panicky if you don't understand it. So you have 3 and 164 thousandths times 100, and you have 12 and 7 tenths times 10. Now if you wrote down the first few problems that we did, it should make real sense to you. If you didn't write them down, then you may be completely and totally confused. Remember, we're not changing any of the numbers that are written up there. We may or may not need to add zeros, and all we're really doing is moving the decimal point. That be it. So let's look at the first one. By looking at you, the majority of you are done. If I want to get an idea where my answer is, if I take my whole number, 3 times 100, my answer should be somewhere near 300. I have 2 zeros, so I need to make this number 100 times greater. To make it 100 times greater, I have to move the decimal point twice. So then my answer would be 316 and 4 tenths. Remember, each place value to the left is 10 times greater than the other one. So we moved this 6 twice to the left because now it's in the ones place. So it was in the hundredths place. So that's 10 times greater and that's 10 times greater. So we made it 100 times greater. 12 and 7 tenths times 10. We want 12. If I multiplied 12 times 10, which you all could do, you know it equals 120. So my answer needs to be near 120. And when I move my decimal point, I'm going to get 127. Now you'll be able to look at this at least today or tomorrow or one of these days, and you'll be able to say, man, this is easy. And you'll be able to use it, and you'll be able to throw down answers. The problem will come when you don't use it again a month later and you try and do it the difficult way a month later. So I am posting this. It'll be on the Google of Classroom before the end of class today, and you'll be able to watch it later. It will be on the Tube of You later, so you'll be able to watch it as well. If you don't have my YouTube channel, one, it's in the email, and I sent one today. I sent one yesterday. You should be able to check your email. And two, all you have to do is search my name, Damon McMurdo. So there we go.